Surprise start, go!
Alright, very warm welcome. Final round of the Group B series of games in the January Casual Tournament. Terra Incognita and Black Magic with you. For this one we have a game between Trat Pingvin, Philothanic, Ich bin ein Konto and Jim Bob the Mighty. There's a lot of interesting places potentially in this map. There's a potential scavenger in the northwest, there's a potential scientist in the northeast. What do you think, Black Magic?
Now, the first thing that I would like to note is that aluminum is kind of weird. You've got 4 high and 2 low. At least it's all spread out so it can't be crushed. But this is one where I would love to see if you could get a good scavenger spot and just kind of take off and get an early lead. But I don't see any fantastic scavenger spots yet.
Interesting found from Phil, who is going to struggle with steel. Steel is $120,
Oh.
and Phil has taken a scientist spot without really any steel at all. And he had the potential source taken away from him by that Trat Pingvin's found, which is expansive. So I wonder what Phil's plan is to get that steel.
Well, so in this particular case, I think Phil can still, he can still get 2 out of the 3, and it's an okay found as long as, let's see, Jim Bob supplies the steel.
Oh, I don't know. He's not going to, because he's got remote steel from the cliff there. I think Phil's going to really struggle to get the steel, and I think that puts Ich bin ein Konto in a really good position. He's got the 1 carbon though only, but he does get to the HQ2 upgrade before anyone else, and honestly a long time before anyone else. This is going to be a big deal. Trat Pingvin is almost there. He got his steel bought up early and he's making steel, but the other 2 are having to buy it manually, and it's a long process because it started high.
Yeah, so Trapping is also going to take the second and third iron right there.
Oh no.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that, honestly.
I think I'm in favor of it. It effectively makes Phil's life difficult enough that it almost knocks him out of the game. He still has the aluminum there that he can get. He's just bought his glass up and he's making 4 steel a second now, or close to 4 steel a second. And he's going to be able to race through those upgrades. He's going to be able to sell some of it down, buy his aluminum, and get to the HQ3 upgrade in double quick time as an expansive player. I think it's really strong.
So he was smart in that he canceled that 3rd claim for iron.
Yeah.
I think that was overkill. I do like the 2nd claim there. What I would like, instead of grouping all of your steel together, is to split the steel, because you have EMPs that can effectively take out all of your tiles, all of your productive tiles for the most part. So other than that, I really like him going into the, all of this steel, playing into Phil needing to be able to needing to be able to buy all of it. Now, I would say though, somebody is selling down steel.
I think that was Trat Pingvin just now, to buy a bunch of his aluminum, which I'm okay. I'm not really okay with. No, I don't agree with that. He also just got his iron nuked out from a high to a low. That was Phil, who's obviously feeling the burn from from those early claims. He wanted those spots, and he's going to make sure that Trat Pingvin's iron is not quite as good as perhaps he thought it was. Trat Pingvin is first to level 3 though, and as I said earlier, as an expansive player, that is a very dangerous thing for the other players in this game.
Now, there's a real opportunity here to go into 2 silicon right next to Trat Pingvin's base, where you could sub out of those later on, but take advantage of this really high silicon price. So I'd like to see that. That being said, you've also got power at 158. There's 1 more geothermal left. And look at that. You've got both silicon is at 63 and carbon is at 91.
Well, Ich bin ein Konto only took the first carbon tile. He only took the high carbon tile. I think he was originally going to take the low as well that was next to it, but the fact that he didn't puts him in a really difficult situation, because, and a Marsquake as well, just to make things even more expensive. So he's going to struggle to get all of that carbon that he needs to upgrade. It's now $120.
Now Marsquakes are the time when if you have cash, it really benefits you. Now this is a time where there's an early Marsquake. This is where you dump it into electronics, or you dump it into chemicals or electronics or something like that, and just forget about it. Because normally, and one of my go-tos is electronics, because normally it's not that profitable to purchase or to be producing electronics early. So that's, if you see a Marsquake, dump it into one of those last 3, and then you're probably going to be okay.
First into power is Jim Bob, and this is kind of interesting because he's only got 20k of debt now, and he's going to be paying that down very, very quickly indeed. He might be making power money very soon. He's also done the sensible thing with his goon, which is to put it in the middle of a line of 3 wind turbines, so only one of them is going to be shut down by that. By the EMP, and power isn't going anywhere, at least for the time being, and until these solar panels come online. So Jim Bob might be in a good position to make power money.
I'm having trouble with Jim Bob's configuration. Right now, that is a whole lot of tiles that are up on a cliff, and when that power price crashes, and it definitely will, there's a whole lot more money he could be making down low. I mean, look at your reactor prices. You've got 134 and 146. You could be making a fortune right here as opposed to trying to go for the power play. And
yeah,
I just don't like it. I'd rather have the tiles down here, and I would almost rather skip power and go into your HQ4 and then worry about it.
Yeah, he needs to be pushing to the upgrade, I think, quite soon. And he's still quite a long way from it at the moment. It's going to cost 90,000 total with that high steel price. Someone who doesn't really care about the cost of the upgrade, though, is Trap Pingvin, who's gone to HQ4 in a hurry as the expansive player. He's in a little bit of debt, which might be problematic for him. He's got no power up right now, and power is going to be expensive to put up.
Well, he has one solar panel.
Oh, he's got one solar panel, yeah. So that's something at least. And he's not actually using very much power because those steel mills are offline as well. So the debt really is the problem for Trap Pingvin, but otherwise he's got a bunch of claims that he can do pretty much what he wants with.
And so the debt is actually going to be a problem, though, because it's starting to crash out, and that just means you're going to be stuck in C debt. However, you can get out of this because there are such good on-world prices at the moment. You can go into your reactors. You're going to be making over $108 a second.
Yeah, that's
just from doing that.
Awful lot. He is being shut down though with those EMPs, and the reason he's being shut down with those EMPs, well, he got to HQ4 first as an expansive player, and that immediately makes you a target. But also there are 2 scientists in this game who don't get affected quite as badly by EMPs. So Trap Pingvin really the target, and he's got all of his buildings clumped together, so they are going to hurt.
So, Jim Bob the Mighty, let's, taking a look, he's got 80k, he could, if he wanted to, he could potentially wait until somebody upgrades and take somebody out.
Yeah, he's making money from that power and has been for a while, and his steel is also excellent, even though it's remote. And Ich Bin ein Konto immediately going into Trap Pingvin, who's really cheap. But Trap Pingvin has enough to defend themselves.
So that's going to be a wasted.
It really is. I would have liked to. Jim Bob just upgraded to 4, so I wonder if somebody can punish him for that potentially. Trap Pingvin though now in D levels of debt, and he's going to have to pay at least some of that off manually because power is at $90 and falling, or continuing to fall. Another EMP comes down. This one on the reactors. So no reactor money for a while. He does still have his steel, but even so, these EMPs are really hurting.
So I would really wish the Trap Pingvin would produce some more steel. Here's why. Jim Bob is now trying to, potentially going to be going into the reactors, which he just did. That was really, really expensive to fill that market. Those at the time were 15k a piece. So that's 60k alone of steel that he needed to put all of those up. That's a lot of money that could have gone into Trap Pingvin's pocket. So now Trap Pingvin skipped power, is going extremely heavily into glass, which I don't know if I agree with that transition.
They are very,
glass.
very, very, very profitable right now.
Well, they are, but look at the steel that was necessary to, you know, essentially he is out of steel now. So if he wants to make the transition to other things, unless it's steel.
That's absolutely true. I think those reactors are probably going to become steel mills. That would be my instinct. Because otherwise that just doesn't make any real sense at all. But this glass is 300 a tile right now for him.
It is. It's definitely profitable. But so it's 150 a tile versus, you know, about 130 a tile for steel. And remember, you had to build the glass. You had to use steel in order to build that glass. So I would have liked to see those stay as steel.
I wonder if his plan is just never to upgrade. I wonder if his plan is to get enough money that whoever upgrades first to HQ5 between Phil and Jim Bob, that he can just buy them. I wonder if that's what the plan is, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. He's going to need that steel in the long term. It's nearly $300. It's 100k just for the steel to upgrade right now. So I wonder if that's what he's thinking.
Well, and so again, remember that Phil is the one that's, well, I guess Phil is just trying to... Did Phil get teleportation? No.
No, Jim Bob did.
Superconductor.
Yeah, Jim Bob got teleportation.
So if you wanted to be extremely cruel, what you would do is you'd stock up on magnetic storms and just wait for that steel to come across. You know how much money that would sacrifice? I mean, that is a lot.
Yeah,
furthermore,
40 times 250, so yeah, that's a lot of money.
Furthermore, only one of those steel, he doesn't have slant drilling. So that is iron that has to ship out over there in order to supply those steel mills, and then he's got to ship it all back. I'd love to see a magnetic storm. That would make me so incredibly happy.
Yeah,
but
well.
So Phil is essentially stuck at this particular point because he can't upgrade because, you know, nobody's really in steel. He needs Trap Ping Vin and Jim Bob to stay in steel. Jim Bob, I think, is in a really good spot because he's making a lot of money in a lot of different places. He's not selling down. He's keeping the prices high for reactors, which I think is a mistake. Mostly because other people like
the price is falling. Yeah, he is going into. I want to mention that he's going into an optimization center, which is it's like a Chems 370. He does get the upgrade though, so maybe that's something he can work with. Trap Ping Vin has the money almost to buy Jim Bob right now. Although Jim Bob has the money to defend themselves as well, albeit no they don't, because Slant Drilling just completed for Jim Bob, and he no longer has enough money to defend himself. But it might be, I don't know what Trap Ping Vin's plan is. I'm really intrigued. He paid off a bunch of his debt. He's not yet HQ5, and he's not producing steel at all, and steel is at $300.
And so that was the instance again where he's selling. I mean, essentially, he's got to be selling down glass at this point. Right?
Yeah, he is.
He is selling down glass. So he went into those glass. Now he's crashed the market because he needs all of that silicon to, you know, he doesn't have enough silicon to.
Yeah. So he needs to transition out of those out of the glass, and it needs to be steel. And he also has
to be steel again. So
yeah, it does. And he
ended up.
He has 200,000 in cash right now, so I wonder what he's going to do with that. Like, it's really interesting. And he's going into chems. That's interesting. Chems are really good. Chems are so good. Oh my goodness. And there's optimization centers around, so maybe this can work. But he needs to do something with the money that he has. I'm really intrigued as to what he's planning to do with it.
So again, I would like to point out that he went from glass into chems. I completely agree that chems are a fantastic market because you're going to make 152 a second. But I mean, it seems like if those had just been in steel, you could have rotated something else out, and you know.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true, and it costs a lot to make this transition, obviously as well. These chems though, are so good. They're more than 100. That's 152 for a single tile.
And you know,
by
who's
itself.
Making money from that? Jim Bob the Mighty.
Yep.
Did he not actually do the? I was hoping what he would do. He originally had instead of that carbon tile, he had a triangle over there right after he upgraded and right after he did get slant drilling, right?
He did get slant drilling, yeah.
He got slant drilling, so I would have liked to see him stick with that. I'm assuming that maybe he built it right next to his base because he decided to go after. He did not get carbon scrubbing.
Alright, here's Trap Pingvin's plan. He's going into Ich Konto, and he absolutely needs to do that.
He has to, yeah.
Because Ich Konto has 4 of his stock. So he's going to forego the upgrade completely. He's going to make these chems, which are insanely profitable, along with the silicon, which he has as well, although the silicon market is crashing out at least a little bit, and he's just going to try and win this game basically on HQ4. I'm really intrigued to see if this will work.
So, if you're Jim Bob the Mighty, you've got a bunch of money, and what do you think you should do with it? I mean, one option is to go into Philothanic, but you've got an HQ4 that's really never going to be able to upgrade for the most part. The steel is so expensive.
Yeah, so something that's interesting. So he's optimizing and he's getting patents. So in the late game, he's going to be an absolute monster. I wonder if I mean, probably what I would do is just buy a bunch of my own stock. And pretty much all of my own stock. Although, look at off-world markets, which, again, we've not really looked at this game. But look at the food launch.
172k, you can't go into an off-world market.
You can't, but Jim Bob could because he's got the steel.
Actually, Trap Pingvin is the only one that could do it.
Well, no, I think Jim Bob definitely, like, he can build one right now if he wants to. It's just a question of whether it's worth it. Yes, it costs £170,000 in dollars in resources.
And yes, it would cost you that long to. I mean, between putting it up,
and there are mutinies and dynamite.
And he is going in. He was going into it a second ago, and then he just canceled it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's between putting it up, between defending it when dynamites are 3k. You've got goons there because all of his.
He's doing it
what
now.
Is he doing off-road market?
He's doing it now. He's getting thinking machines as well. This is really interesting to me. So he's getting thinking machines. I think I might like it. I think he has to get his. I think he has to get all of his own stock bought up ASAP though. If he can do that, he's not a target. He's not a threat in the eyes of the other players, at least. He can pay off his debt. He can make so much money from this off-world. Look at this off-world launch, 660 for food. He can make food easily. So something I really don't like. Look at these optimization centers.
They just revealed your off-world market.
Yeah, they probably did.
Well,
yeah, they
here's
definitely
why I don't. Let me tell you why I don't like his move. So that off-world market, at the moment, I mean, nobody else can get into an off-world market except for Trap Pingvin because it's 231k. 231k for an off-world market. Here's the second reason I don't like it. Now that he's built that, what are you gonna do? Power is 248 a second. You're solidly in D debt now. You don't have any sort of power, or and based on
look,
where
and look at this, he's building a second off-world market as well.
So
I don't know. Like I'm totally okay with this, and the reason I'm okay with this is that he's a scientist. He's gonna go into the late game. Look, he's HQ5. He's a scientist. He's making so much money. He's optimizing. He's needs to buy his own stock, which he's not doing. He's going into Konto instead. Why isn't he buying his own stock? But if he goes into his own stock, it's totally okay because you're so expensive at that point to buy out, and you're going to be making 50k a launch. It's so profitable.
So in order to here's why I'll disagree with you. In order to make those profitable, you have to have 3 launches per.
Yeah,
Plus,
that's okay though. That takes 3
that,
minutes. That's fine.
You have two off-worlds. You have to build it, and then you have to launch. So you're talking about 2 minutes per, and you've just wasted almost 200k on those. Meanwhile, if you did anything with either optimizations or anything else with these insane on-world prices, then you would be in a lot better position.
Yeah, on-world prices are really good, and that's what makes it, I think, a questionable decision to me at least.
And one more part about it is the fact that essentially one of your off-worlds is revealed and you're solidly in D debt. So all somebody has to do is pop that goon. Even if you have thinking machines, it could go into a battle of mutinies that you can't really compete with because you have one of them and you're in solidly in D.
You say it's revealed, but nobody's pinged it off yet. So I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, it should be revealed, but it looks like nobody's noticing that that's an off-world. So Ikbin Konto bought out Trap Pingvin, who just was never quite able to get to the upgrade, and he's now going into Jimbob, which he absolutely has to do. I'm totally in favor of this decision from Konto's perspective. He doesn't have the off-world, he doesn't have too much earnings potential other than his subsidiary and maybe his pleasure
Yeah.
dome. He's got to go into Jimbob.
Oh, he absolutely has to go into Jim Bob. I mean, Philothanic has essentially been, everything is mortgaged because he couldn't make steel.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily a threat. Some of the life support has crashed out a little bit more, but look at Jim Bob's stock. Sure, he makes all of that money from that, but he has a $25 stock price with 2 off-roads, and he's not in any life support except for water.
So, even that being the case, look how close he is to the buy on Konto right now. Look how close he is. He's 100k away. He spent all of that money on off-world markets, but he's making so much money that he's going to be able to get to this buy. As soon as these 2 launches go, he's going to win. He's going to win the game.
But he's not buying him. He's buying Phil.
Why is he buying Phil? That makes me so sad. Oh my goodness. Why is he doing that?
You know what? Here's the thing. I can defend his purchase on Phil because as soon as he makes the buy on Ikbin Kanto, then you're taking out the open empty stock. Nobody else is gonna buy him.
And it boosts his stock price enough that Konto doesn't have the earnings potential. His subsidiary is basically not making him any money. Well, it's making 500, which isn't nothing. But like.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the earnings potential. I think Jim Bob's going to win this game, and I think he's going to win the game because he's such a monster in the late game. Even though he didn't defend himself, those off-worlds are paying off. Sorry, I don't get to get one over you on the off-world field itself, but in this case, I think I do.
So I think I would have I could defend one off-world. I could definitely defend one off-world. I can't defend.
Yeah, like he probably should have been punished for the second one. I agree with that.
So the thing is, if he didn't go into the off-world, if he didn't go into 2 off-worlds, he has 400k. He already has the buy on Ikbin Kanto, and Phil is in no competition. So he didn't have to do that. Sure, it's icing on the cake now that you have him, but it could have been very, very sketchy because of dynamites, because of the mutiny.
Absolutely. Like there were lots of ways in which he could have been punished for that, but the fact that I don't know, like, was he in a position to win the game if he didn't do that? Maybe he was.
Absolutely.
Because he would have had the money to buy Konto perhaps.
Yeah, because he could have gotten that buy.
Also, this isn't over just yet. This isn't over just yet. Ikbin Konto has somehow 80% on Jim Bob. Oh, because Jim Bob's in so much debt. Look at his stock price just tanking completely. He's in $500,000 of debt, and he's building a lot of stuff that is costing him a bunch of money.
He bought the wrong person, unfortunately.
Yeah, wow, he really did.
It's going to be Ikbin Kanto.
Wow, he's going to win the game. Oh, they're both at 100%. He just got a launch. Oh, it's so close. He needs to cancel the launches. Oh, Kanto gets it.
And
oh, wow.
Justification for black magic.
Wow.
No.
Oh, you let me down, Jim Bob. I'm so disappointed in you right now.
The justification for 0 off-world wins.
Man.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it still would have been over Hedibon on Ikbin Kanto
and
instead of
all of that
Philothanic.
money transitioning, and that money could have been used to win the game. Oh no. Oh well.
What an entertaining last
That
one.
was a really entertaining last game, and that map was really super interesting as well, because you had what was just obviously like there was the one scavenger spot, and there were a couple of like semi-okay science spots and Phil took the bait in taking the one on the west, but otherwise, yeah, it was the expansive and the scientist in the northeast as well. So yeah, that was a really fun map and a really good final game. Ikbin Konto takes it. That means he takes. Let's have a look. What happened in the other games? Let's find out. So the Group A game looks like it's still going on, and it is. It looks like Toodback is going to win that. Rainbow is out of it, so it looks like Rahi has definitely won the tournament.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well played.
So, So I was gonna say, before we leave this game, let's just take a look at what players could have done a little bit differently, and what they did really well. So, Trapping Vin had a fantastic early game. It was, it was really great, in terms of identifying that the other people did not have enough steel,
Yeah.
making all of that money. Where it started to go south is where Trapping Vin scrapped the steel. Not only was it so profitable, and you know that people like Philothanic have to buy into it in order to upgrade. So that's where you need to stay in steel, get to HQ5 as quickly as you can because all of the prices were so incredibly lucrative. You need to have as many claims as possible. And then, it was the fact that he had ignored power a little bit too long and then got into D debt. And then by the time other people got got superconductor or got their power set up, then it crashed all the prices and, he couldn't bail himself out of it. So just staying in steel, upgrading a little bit faster, and then a lot of times you go into power at around HQ3. It'll slow your growth down a little bit, but it's important to make sure you don't spiral into D at and at minimum at HQ4. So
yeah, absolutely. And there was something else quite subtle about Trap Pingvin's situation as well. He had that single iron tile, or the low iron tile that got nuked. Oh, sorry, not the one that got nuked. The one next to the one that got nuked. That was also a high silicon tile, and there were definitely points in the game, and quite a few points in the game as well, at which that would have been much better served as an iron tile because it would have supported that steel production that he so desperately needed at that point, because he couldn't upgrade. It was $300, so it was insanely profitable anyway. But he didn't go into it, and I think part of that was because he didn't have the iron to support it, but he could have had the iron to support it if he scrapped the silicon instead.
And in this particular case, this was, looking at the black market, I would have liked to see a whole lot more black market usage, particularly your underground nukes and mutinies. I mean, even just a mutiny in that particular case, if Philothanic wants to cause some difficulty, that iron price was really high. If you mutiny that away, Trapping Vin can't take it back because he's in D debt, and you're just reaping all of that money from there. Things like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or even more importantly, Philothanic could have caused some serious issues with a network virus. Because some of those prices were really expensive, and if you do, say, a mutiny on the iron and a network virus, nobody else is in iron.
Yeah, wow, that would have been a big deal.
Nobody else is in iron, so you really could have benefited there. So taking a look at Ikbi9 Kanto, that was it was a great move to go into that first carbon, but you needed that second carbon early on because that really slowed the growth. There's also, I want to say, potentially an overcommitment to water. In that particular, if you look at their 3 water claims, they're just straight across, but they're not.
And it's also optimized as well to 50%. So yeah, that's a large commitment into water, and yeah, he didn't need that much water.
And then if you always want to be careful, particularly as scavenger, having too many claims away from your base that you can't rotate out of. So take a look at you have 3 claims for water, and then you have 3 claims for power. If you shift that power over to a ledge directly at the southwest portion of your base, there's a little canyon over there. Even if you have worse power, at least you can rotate that around later, and that would have been a lot better place to put it. So I think just cleaning some of those things up, I mean, granted, he did win, but cleaning some of those up would be a little bit more smooth. And then finally for Jim Bob, I think he did a whole lot of things right. We'll agree to disagree on the off-worlds.
No, I think so. So I think yeah. So I'm just going to sort of explain my thinking on the off-world. So I think going into the first off-world was totally okay, and I think the reason it was okay was because it was really hard for other players to identify that there, until he made it obvious, identify that there was an off-world there. He shouldn't have made it obvious, obviously, but also really hard to identify that Jim Bob is going to be such a threat in the late game with that off-world, with all the patents as a scientist, with steel production. All of those things make him incredibly scary in the late game, but not in ways that are enormously obvious to a player that's playing in the game. And so, like, with a couple of caveats, I think he absolutely needed to buy all of his own stock as soon as he could.
That's correct.
Once the off-world was up, he's making so much money from that. Like, it's so profitable. Like 50k launches. At the end of the game, there were 64k launches. There were food launches, which he could easily make. Like, I'm totally okay with him making that enormous investment, provided he covers his back while he's doing it, and he didn't really do that. But even so, I think it was okay from that perspective. The second off-world was kind of a little bit more difficult to justify.
So, as a fun counterpoint, because I think this is a really fun topic actually in terms of whether to build those off-worlds or not. So I'm going to give the counterpoint that it was 100% not worth it. It's definitely not worth it for 2 off-worlds. I am extremely questionable about 1 off-world because of several things. Number 1, he could have gotten in a lot of trouble, even though he got thinking machines. If somebody penetrates through that in D-Det and they mutiny and somebody else mutinies, they get it for 120 seconds.
Oh, that's true. If you get and mutinies was so cheap. Like, mutinies ended the game at 6,000.
Mutinies are incredibly cheap, and you're off-world. If there was any experienced player looking at that, you have thinking machines. There are only a couple of tiles that it could be at. And that is the first place that I look at. There was a network virus that was used, and it was used just 1 tile away from the off-world market. So what happened was all of those were virused, but there was 1 goon there. My next black market is to pop that goon because I know exactly where your off-world is. It's right over there.
Yep,
and if somebody takes it with a mutiny, and then the second one comes in, it's 120k, and somebody else has that really profitable launch.
Yeah, that's true.
The other point that I wanted to make is if you take a look at Jim Bob's profitability, what did he make the most money on? Not off-worlds, steel.
Steel, yeah, that's true. I mean, part of that was because he built that off-world, or built those 2 off-worlds, which boosted the steel price to the extent that he was just able to make a bunch of money from it.
Correct, but he was able to do. He would have made a whole lot more money had he been doing a whole lot of the. For a while, you had the food and the reactors, which were incredibly profitable. And so instead of going into those optimization centers, which were on top of water, it would have been better to be in life support there. But again, so after all of those 2 off-worlds, he made 573k in off-worlds. Meanwhile, it cost him almost 400k just to set those up. And once again, he could have bought Ich bin ein Kanto instead of the other way around.
Yeah, he could. No, I think that's fair enough. I think that would have been maybe slightly better.
We both have good points in this, and it's an interesting. We'll let somebody else talk about it. Maybe that would be a forum discussion point just to see some fun, lively discussion on it. But
yeah, and also I will say that, like, had he defended himself fully in that mid game, the game would have lasted much longer. So those off-worlds, again, they were just pumping out profit for him at 50k a launch. So I think he would have got more value from those had he again covered his back, which he didn't really do, and that really was the reason that he didn't win the game ultimately. So yeah, that was again another fantastic tournament. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Black Magic, for being the sort of devil's advocate to a lot of my points. It's always entertaining.
Always a great time, and thanks very much for everybody participating. And check out Discord if you get a chance. We have a lot of good discussion there. I'm sure we're gonna have another tournament very shortly, so check Discord for that. Meantime, you can watch for all these replays to be posted. Take a look at everything. If you have any questions, ask it on Discord. We're always here to help. And thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate you coming out and watching.
Yep, thank you very much. And yeah, the next tournament I think is in a couple of weeks, so check us out then. But for now, see you later.